Hello, and welcome back to the third and final episode in the Orgasmic Mastery series. So, in the first two episodes, we talked about what an orgasm actually is, a new and helpful definition, why so many women and people struggle to access orgasm, the nervous system, conditioning, and myths that get in the way of accessing orgasm, orgasmic geography, orgasmic techniques, and some principles of orgasmic expansion. So it's all so good. It's all there. The first two episodes right before this one, I highly recommend checking out, especially Orgasmic Expansion if you haven't yet, because today we're going somewhere even deeper. We're going into the fascinating things that happen once you begin to really reclaim that orgasmic capacity. A question naturally comes, which is, okay, wow, that's a lot of incredible energy and this feels really good. And then what else can we do with this energy? What can this energy do? And then sometimes there's also interesting phenomena that start cropping up there. So we're going to talk about that. Like, what if the energy gets stuck? What if it becomes stagnant and then actually causes other issues in your body? So, across many mystical traditions, Taoist, tantric, shamanic, yogic traditions, orgasmic energy has been understood as one of the most powerful life forces that's available to us, right? It's a life force for healing, for empowerment, for manifestation, for spiritual awakening. And what orgasmic mastery really means is learning how to harness, circulate, and utilize this energy instead of simply releasing it. And we're also going to talk today, really essentially, about what energy actually is. What is sexual energy? And I am very proud of the explanation I've come to cultivate for myself. Because of my physics and engineering background, I do relate it to that. So it's basically one of my most favorite explanations of energy ever. How my physics background helps me have better orgasms. I mean, incredible. So today I want to also share 5 powerful ways that we can work with orgasmic energy in our lives to actually benefit us in ways other than sex. And so that's all coming your way today. Stay tuned. But of course, first, I have a few quick announcements. So, first, if you're listening to this and thinking, oh my God, yes, but how do I actually do this? Or this sounds incredible, but I don't really know how to do this alone. You don't have to. I still have a few spots left in my signature coaching container, which is called Wild, Worthy, and Orgasmic. And so in just 12 weeks, we work through orgasmic reclamation, expansion, mastery, so that your sex life, confidence, and your connection to your body completely transforms. Book a free call through the link in the show notes, and let's talk about making 2026 your most orgasmic year yet. Second way that you can work with me on your orgasmic journey is in one of my 2 upcoming women's retreats. So first we have Wild Women Rising, which is a reclamation of wildness, sisterhood, and pleasure, which is near Vancouver, BC in May 2026. And then I also have Wild Women Unleashed, which is a week-long immersive pleasure retreat in Mexico in February of 2027. So we still have some early bird tickets left for spring, so you can apply now while these spots last. There are also some pre-sale tickets available for next February. And for the week-long immersion, this isn't for the faint of heart. This is for those who are so ready to no longer be the same woman they used to be, ready to shed that proverbial snakeskin and run like hell towards who they're becoming. And so, since women have been saying that 3-day retreat is life-changing, I can't wait to see what happens when we have a whole week together. So those details are all at krishall.ca, and you got to apply early for the best pricing. I'm so excited for your wild women to be reclaimed. And lastly, for those who want to try this all out on your own, play around, expand your orgasm, I've got a free 15-minute training for you. It's called the Pleasure Portal, and it's absolutely pure magic. There's a link in the show notes where you can grab your free copy and try out these most essential orgasmic techniques for yourself. Because remember, if you're learning and listening to this, great, but you're never going to actually know what it's about until you experience it for yourself. So you can grab that today at krishall.ca/thepleasureportal. Okay, now on to the episode. So let's review so far. Before we go into orgasmic mastery, let's zoom out and talk about the 3 phases, right? So there's reclamation, expansion, and mastery. Each phase builds on the one before it. But remember, they're also not linear. You don't have to do them in order, and you might find yourself skipping around, and that's totally, totally normal. So in Reclamation, in that first episode, we started at, okay, before we even talk about mind-blowing orgasms or advanced pleasure practices, we have to talk about access, right? Reclamation is the phase where you reconnect with your body and your pleasure and access your body. It's where you can start healing from the shame, the confusion, the conditioning that so many of us grew up around sex. We talked about the real reasons why people struggle to orgasm, things like fear of vulnerability, emotional blocks, shame around sexuality, not understanding our anatomy, being stuck in our heads instead of our bodies. That's a really big one. And we talked about the 3 components of orgasm: pleasure, expansion, and a shift in consciousness. And yes, that is a new definition of an orgasm for you if you've never had that before. It's pleasure, expansion of that pleasure, and then a full-on shift in consciousness. And that definition allows you to experience so many more orgasmic things because you're not limited to, oh, I felt something in my genitals. So that episode was all about permission to explore, to touch your body, to feel pleasure, because none of us are broken. We simply never really received the education, safety, or encouragement to develop that orgasmic potential. So Reclamation is all about remembering that pleasure is your birthright. It's one of my favorite stickers I give at festivals. So episode number 2 was all about orgasmic expansion. We started to really redefine what an orgasm actually is, right? Not the buildup, the climax, and woo, woo, done. But the orgasm being so much more than that. How it moves through the body, how it happens in waves and loops and valleys and troughs and explosions and whispers. And it can be long and it can be short, and it can deepen your consciousness. It can awaken your consciousness, right? We talked about full body orgasms and energetic orgasms and multi-orgasmic experiences and the orgasmic landscapes through the body, right? Because your whole body is orgasmic, not just certain parts of us. And there's definitely some hot spots, but there's way more hot spots than you think. And we explored some of the core tools that expand pleasure, right? Breath, sound, movement, presence, and energy. And today we're going to go much deeper into the energetic part. Expansion is where you stop chasing an orgasm and start letting the pleasure unfold. It's where sex becomes less about performance and more about being so fully alive in your body. All right, so now we're moving on to mastery, the final phase where the energy stops being something that only lives in the bedroom and starts becoming a life force that you can work with intentionally. It's really powerful, right? Like I said, it can be used for healing, creativity, manifestation, vitality, spiritual connection. A lot of mystical traditions around the world have been teaching this for centuries. But most of us were never taught how to actually work with that energy, or even what energy was in the first place. So we're going to explore how to circulate it, how to store it, how to direct it, how to use it for healing. I'll give you examples and practices to use at home, and of course, talk about the energy itself. I'm so excited for this explanation because I'm so proud of all the places of wisdom that I've gathered to create this definition for energy. This is a huge reason why I absolutely love sex, because it is my greatest teacher. So before we get into that, I wanted to tell you some personal details, some personal story elements that might help you connect more to this topic. Remembering that this isn't linear, so I'm not here all the time. I would not call myself an orgasmic master. Sometimes I step into mastery. Sometimes I'm in reclamation. Sometimes I have to do a bunch of work to rediscover my pussy and get back to a solid base of understanding and trust. I have spent a lot of time making my orgasms absolutely exquisite. And sometimes I slip back into fantasy to make that happen. Sometimes I'm tensing and craving that final orgasm. And that's not what I teach as the ideal, but I want to really communicate and emphasize that we all do that. And we all flow in between different states. And some days, you know what? You just need that release. You just want to reach for the vibrator and get that release, and that's okay. And that doesn't mean that you're not working on your own mastery. And that doesn't mean that anything is wrong. Every orgasm should be celebrated, every single one, no matter how they happened. But it's all about coming into a different relationship with your body where, like, because if you do reach for that vibrator every single time, the issue there becomes that sometimes partner sex is so much harder, right? So that's why it is beautiful to explore different ways and to be able to orgasm in so many different ways, because that's where being multi-orgasmic really comes from, is like, I have mastery over how to flow with my orgasmic energy. I know, oh, this happens. Okay, this is where I can go. Oh, this happens. This is where I could go. And that doesn't mean that I don't love a good vibrator once in a while. So, pleasure, it's in the present moment, right? And so one of the things I really get caught up in is tensing my body and then looking forward to the orgasm or trying to reach towards the orgasm instead of relaxing into that present moment. Right? That is one of my dangerous places. Is like, okay, I'm relying on fantasy, I'm tensing, and like I know I can achieve an orgasm that way, but I also know that there is so much teaching and healing in doing it different ways. And maybe today I don't get an orgasm because I'm focused on learning how to do it in a different way. And it can be really hard, right? It can be really hard to step back into the present moment because I don't know about you, but I have a lot of like worries, like especially if it's partner sex. Sometimes, whether irrational or not, I'm thinking, well, oh gosh, like what if my partner stops because I'm taking too long? Or what if you really wanted one today and it's just not happening and not happening the way it happened last time? Because, of course, no two orgasms are ever the same. It's all incredibly normal. And so for mastery, I first discovered how to use this energy when I was studying to be a sex coach. And I've really interwoven it into my life ever since. And sometimes it's really not the key thing I'm using, right? A lot of the time it's more expansion. And like I've been working so much on that orgasmic expansion and creating like those amazing orgasmic experiences for the sake of pleasure. And then only once I think about like more personal growth, personal development, is it like, and even like the physicality of my body, like, am I doing okay in my body? Do I have a pain that needs healing? Is more when I step into mastery. So it's less about the pleasure in the bedroom and more about myself as a holistic, healthy being. And so one of my like favorite casual ways to use these techniques are actually like when I daydream about the life that I want, while self-pleasuring, right? Sometimes it just kind of comes up, and like this is a very, very lazy form of sex magic, which is just like I'm daydreaming about the things I want and I'm self-pleasuring, and that combines very casually pleasure and desire. And it's, I mean, we'll talk about it later, but it's all about, making your desires feel more safe. That's more in the sex magic section. So I think one of the most essential stories I could tell you is that sometimes when you become really adept at orgasms and you're playing with this energy, you might start to notice that your pussy actually becomes super overactivated. Right in the middle of a work day, there's stories of people who just like could not control their sexual energy, right? It just feels so activated, especially after you've done a lot of orgasmic expansion. You start thinking, okay, this is a lot to work with. How do people sit with this all the time? And maybe you'll even be afraid of going into higher states of orgasm because you're afraid that you won't be able to control it. And so this is the answer to that question, is like, you can actually feel too much sexual energy. And it's important to learn how to ground it so that you could keep bringing it up and you don't have to worry about it running rampant in your body and actually sometimes causing more issues. And so sometimes when I go through phases where there's just too much energy, there's too much presence, there's too much tension in my genitals, even in the middle of the day, it's like being able to move it around and disperse it is really essential. So again, I'll talk about the practice later, but like you can release it through the balls of your feet. You can really like store it in your body. Um, and I've also had clients who've had the opposite of this problem, which is like not enough sexual energy too, right? And like again, like you can start from a place of, oh, there isn't enough sexual energy, and then you can end up with too much sexual energy because you generated it all at once, and then now you don't know what to do. So it's really essential because that stagnant energy in your body can cause illness, right? Like why not put it into the organs that need it most or use it to fuel other things? Yeah, it's definitely a key part of the orgasmic journey, is like, what do I do when I now have too much? What more can I do with it? And this is the answer. And remember that you're never really done learning about it. And I can talk at you about it all day and you can understand it so vividly, but you need to directly experience these things, right? You won't have any questions until you go and experiment for yourself and go, oh, this is how this felt. Interesting. Okay. Now I have a question. Like, you need to experience. Direct experience is the only way to actually gain wisdom about this and about your body and about what others are experiencing. So I'm going to introduce you to the 5 core tools, or 5 tools for orgasmic mastery. And there are many more, and you can read endless amounts of books on this. And I've got a bunch of recommendations on my website for books that help you explore this. But equally, this is a cheat sheet, right? This is a couple easy things you can take into your life, not overcomplicated, not shoved deep into tantric ultimate mastery books. So I use the word energy a lot. Lots of mystical, tantric, sexual spaces use the word energy a lot. And I want to ground this concept in something real for you. Remember that I'm an engineer by trade, before a sex coach, and that is why sometimes you come to me for this grounding answer. And I'm so proud of this definition of energy because it's come from a lot of different teachings, a lot of different synthesizings of different parts of my life. This is why I'm the pleasure engineer. Okay, so I'm going to tell you why part of Einstein's theory of special relativity can help you have better sex. Many of us have heard that E equals mc squared, right? That formula. It's basically saying that energy is equivalent to matter, so all physical things, and it's timesing it by the speed of light squared. Now, that doesn't matter. You don't have to understand that. What matters is that it has been mathematically proven that energy and mass are different forms of the same thing because they can be converted into one another. It also means that a very small amount of mass contains a very, very large amount of energy. Trust me, that is how the math works out. Mass is a concentrated form of energy. And this equation means that there is intrinsic, inherent, inevitable energy within any object due to it having mass. Mass, weight, right? Weight is the same as mass because weight is basically when you times mass by the gravitational pull that it has. But that's, a whole thing. So, energy itself, right? Like, there's chemical potential energy, right? The energy stored between molecules. There's electricity, which is a form of electric potential energy. There's nuclear potential energy, which is the energy that's stored in the nucleus, so the middle of an atom. There's kinetic potential energy when something is really high up and the distance between it has a gravitational field, which means that there is energy between those two locations. There is so much energy that flows through us because we actually have quite a large mass as things like, well, there's so many tiny things and so many massive things in the world, and we have enough mass to have quite a bit of energy. So the trick is, how do we sense it, right? Because we want to feel it so that we can move it and use it. And the answer is your sensations. Your sensations mean when there's heat, when there's coolness, when there's a sense of like almost bubbliness or electricity, or like you just feel something, like your skin is crawling. Like, these are all sensations, any physical thing that you can feel. So this is something you can learn from Vipassana meditation, which is an ancient Buddhist meditation technique. And it basically says that all of your body is experiencing sensations at every single moment, that these sensations are always changing, that atoms are always moving. And so we know from physics, all matter at the microscopic scale is vibrating. And so this translates into sensations in our body. Anything you feel at the physical level. When you sit with lots of concentration, you can feel that your entire body is experiencing sensations at every single moment. And sometimes you can even start to perceive it as like tiny little vibrations. And this causes sensations. The heat, the cold, the tension, the electric pulses, all these little sensations that are happening inside you at all times. And again, don't take my word for it, right? Try it out for yourself. Like this could be like, okay, maybe, but the second you experience it yourself in your body, you know that it's true. This is how you sense energy. Now, how you move with it or play with it is you pay attention to it. Pay attention to how you feel. Pay attention to all little sensations, and eventually you realize that it's real and it moves and it's constantly changing. So to begin, you concentrate on an area of your body and you pay attention and you notice what physical sensations occur. That's the shifting energy. And then can you shift your attention to somewhere else in the body and feel it move there too, or just feel that it already exists there? That's the movement of energy. So you can consciously move it. And it takes quite a bit of training to be able to do this seamlessly and effortlessly, but everyone can start today. Because I like to instruct people on starting with imagination, right? Start by just suspending your disbelief and saying, okay, let's pretend that this is real. And let's just pretend we can move this energy. You can even picture and imagine a little pearl of white light as you move the energy around. Start by imagining and feeling for the deeper body sensations. All matter is energy, and changes in that matter through the form of sensations is how you detect the energy moving. And I didn't always connect those things before, but Vipassana meditation definitely opened up my eyes to those being the connection, that being the direct link. And so if you haven't experienced this before, you might not fully believe me in this moment, but it is something to keep in mind. Once you know that that's possible, it starts to lead you in that direction. And so if that didn't confuse you at all, amazing. If it did, also amazing. We're going to talk about different techniques, but I wanted to give you that framework so that when I say move the energy, I mean focus on that area, feel for the sensations, or imagine a little ball of white light, or both, and pay attention to the subtle or big shifts in sensation. And remember that intention is everything. Energy will react to intention from your thoughts, from your mind. And also, it's going to do whatever it wants. It's great. It's its own thing. It's its own phenomena. So we have 5 tools to talk about. The first is storing orgasmic energy. Most people experience orgasm as a release outwards. But these ancient traditions have taught us that instead of pushing the energy out, you can actually absorb it back into the body. You can think of orgasmic energy as like food for your cells, right? When you relax instead of clench, the energy can nourish the nervous system, revitalize the body, increase vitality. And one of the key places to store this energy is the lower dantian, which I'll get into. Again, that's a Taoist word and concept. It's an energetic center that's located about an inch below the navel and deep inside the body. And in Taoist traditions, it's seen as like a cauldron of life force energy. And when energy is stored there, it can support physical vitality and career and creativity and groundedness and even manifestation in the material world. And so there's 3 ways to store energy. These are the practices. So the first is that you can absorb the orgasmic energy into the cells of your body. So think again of the orgasmic energy as food, it's high vibration nourishment, and you might notice that you feel nourished and glowing. Simply send the orgasmic energy, so all of the sensations in your genitals, send that energy into the cells of your body. Imagine it. Just picture it in your mind. Imagine you can and see what happens. This is all an experiment, right? The second option is to cycle it using the microcosmic orbit, which we'll go over when we talk about truly cycling the energy. But you may feel your cells being kind of regenerated and cleansed as that energy circulates through you. And then the third option here is storing the energy, like I said, in the lower tantian, which again is that space right below the navel. And you can really envision like putting it into like a beautiful chalice or a lockbox or like even a witch's cauldron or whatever lights lights you up. And it, like that sort of container helps you envision storing it, right? And that it's not going to leak out. And again, it's all happening in your mind, but it's all real, right? And so women tend to shoot their energy out into the world, and they rarely bring it into their bodies. And so people often do this unconsciously. Sometimes it's rejected because of feelings of unworthiness or being afraid of their power, and this is very normal. But just start to notice in yourself. Notice the differences, what happens when you orgasm, and instead of sending it outwards or just forgetting about it or releasing it, you intentionally take it and put it somewhere, even if it's in your heart. That's a beautiful place to put it. We'll talk about putting it in the different chakras in a second, but you can just take the energy and redirect it somewhere and let it stay there, right? Don't shoot it out of your head. Don't give it to someone else. Store it for yourself. Keep it for yourself. Okay, so for circulating the sexual energy, it says tool number 2, we use the technique known as the microcosmic orbit. That's how it's known in the Taoist tradition, and it's known by different terms in so many different traditions all around the world. You can also think of it as like the pleasure circuit. This is usually what I talk about when I talk about energy movement, right? So it's something that naturally happens inside people who are very like open, right? It's how the energy naturally starts to flow. And so we can kind of start the engines moving, right? And so the idea is, instead of keeping the pleasure located in the genitals, you allow the energy to move through your entire body. And so when this happens, we have an increase in sensitivity, orgasms become more expansive, and the nervous system really revitalizes. And this is where people begin to experience wave-like or like full body orgasms as this circuit opens and as it stays open naturally. And so the way to do it, keep in mind there's 2 separate directions. So the first direction is the yin direction. So there's yin and there's yang. And the yin, some people think of it as more feminine, but it's really the expansive, receptive, heart opening, the allowing, the receiving, the surrendering. So if you're feeling more open and receptive, this is the direction I would use. And so the yin goes up the front of the body and then down the back of the body. And you're circulating in a circle in this big loop that travels from your root, so down at the base of your torso, all the way up through the front, through your third eye, and then back down the back of your body, right? And I tend to use my breath to really like draw it up, and then you have it go through, and then you kind of sigh and release it, kind of like a shower down the other side of the body. And as you start to circulate that energy again, like you can only learn so much by hearing me say it. Like you really have to try it yourself, and then you'll go, oh, okay, I feel that, or I don't feel that, and let's try other ways. Or it's really experiential. And the yang direction is the other way. So you'd start from the back, and this is again the more like masculine. This is the energizing, the strengthening, the empowering, the directive. Like if you're feeling very like a need to bring out more directive energy, um, and really like take control, this is the direction you'd use. And so you're sending it up the back of the body from the root through again the third eye space between the eyebrows, and then back down the front of the body. And it can be showery and pleasant, and really use visualization, whatever comes to mind. Um, Everything works. As long as it works for you, everything is beautiful, and it doesn't have to follow certain patterns. Like there's a really directive form of the microcosmic orbit where you like go through all the chakras and stuff like that, and it's really not essential, especially if you just kind of step away from the tradition and just call it the pleasure circuit, and just, okay, I'm going to experience this in my own body, for my own purposes. I'm going to play with this energy, right? I like saying play because that allows us to mess around and to be experimental and to not have any sort of like, okay, I'm doing this practice. Like, no, we're just playing. We're playing with it. We're experimenting. We're discovering, right? And so you can use both directions to create like a healthy balance. And again, remember, some people do this naturally. You might notice that this is already happening. It's the way that energy naturally wants to flow. And I think it says a lot that a lot of different traditions around the world all picked up on this same way of energy movement without coming into contact with each other. So that is how you practice it. That is how you practice the microcosmic orbit. That is how you move the sexual energy around. This is helpful at all stages of turn on and desire. And you could use it in meditation and experiment with it. You don't have to do it with turn on. You can use it to increase your turn on. You can use it to let it flow and then store it somewhere. It's all great. So, tool number 3 is using orgasmic energy for healing. So you can direct the sexual energy towards healing. So in many traditions, illness is connected to stagnation of energy in the body, right? Tension and holding patterns. And I've recently realized that all of my illness, without exception, has come from a sense of fear, which has caused me to tense, either unconsciously or consciously, and that's led to stagnated energy, right? You feel those sensations in the body, you freak out, you tense, and then it kind of locks that in and then causes a bunch of pain and misery. And so part of this is consciously using the sexual energy, again, because it's that powerful life force energy, to like flow and flush stuff out. Like sometimes you just feel like you need like an energetic flush, or you need something and you don't quite know what it is, right? Like it's not in my mind, it's not in my emotions, it's not in my physical body even. There's something deeper that just needs a flush, right? And so we can consciously direct sexual energy after it's been built up to revitalize organs and restore energy flow and amplify the body's natural healing capacity. And so the practice here would be building up that sexual energy and then bringing awareness to a part of the body that needs support. And remember, like, this isn't like after climax, send it there. This is like bring the sexual energy up, right? Like turn yourself on, use whatever tools you want to turn yourself on, and then encourage the energy flow and bring awareness to that part of the body that needs support. Allow the energy to flow there. Maybe it's your kidneys, maybe it's your heart. And once you're done, tune in and feel if that organ or body part needs anything else from you, right? It might just need to be held, or any like words of encouragement. Like, you never know what comes up when you just ask a part of your body, hey, what do you need from me right now? It's surprising how loud some of those parts are. And then I would encourage a free flow of energy through that organ to counteract any stagnation, right? It's not just about sending the energy there. It's also about just, you could send the microcosmic orbit through that organ, right? So tool number 4 is working with the chakras. So sexual energy can be directed through the chakra system, of course. And as pleasure builds, you can guide that energy into different centers of the body, like I talked about before. And so if you made it this far, you probably know what chakras are, but of course, I always need a reminder. I always love reminders on where the different energy centers are and what kind of energies they have, because it's going to amplify those different qualities and those different things. And so, of course, go look it up online, find a chakra chart and see which one needs the most support right now, or sometimes you can really feel it. But here's a basic guide, right? So your root down at the tip of your tailbone, we have grounding and stability and financial security and like that sense of home, that sense of being held. We have the sacral, which is around your genitals and its sensuality and creativity and emotional flow. We have the solar plexus, where there's power, confidence, and personal expression, that sense of fire. We have your heart, which of course is love and compassion and connection. We have your throat, which is your voice, your creativity, your truth. We have your third eye, which is insight and wisdom. And we have your crown, which is just above the head on the top, and it's a connection to a higher consciousness. And so the practice is, as you turn yourself on, you channel the pleasure and the orgasmic expansion into the chakra you decided to work with today, and that will amplify and purify. the effects of the chakra being activated, right? So this one, again, it's not too dissimilar from directing it to like an organ, but it is more of like directing it to an energy center. And like, again, it's just a way of playing with the energy. So the fifth tool is sex magic. Yay, of course. And of course, everyone here probably knows I love sex magic. I teach it at festivals. I have a free sex magic audio and instructions you can use at home. I'll put that link in the show notes. I have an entire podcast episode just for this. It's amazing. There's so much power here. There's so much to learn about, even just without using sexual desire, is like what, like it helps you reframe how you're going to move through the world and what you're going to call into your life. So I'm not going to go into all the details here because, of course, I have an entire episode just on this. But as a refresher, it is the intentional use of sexual energy to support manifestation and creation. And because orgasmic energy is one of the most powerful life forces in the body, when we combine it with intention and visualization and emotional clarity, it really helps to amplify what you're calling into your life. And this doesn't mean the universe becomes a vending machine, but it does mean you're aligning your life force energy with your desires, which can be absolutely life-changing. So if you're looking for more of that, check out episode 53. It's all in there for you. Try it on your own. Remember, if you don't try it on your own, you don't really know it. You've got to use this stuff on your own. Discover it for yourself. Figure out where you agree with me. Figure out where you don't. Great. Come tell me where I'm wrong. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear it. Okay. So it's really important to say now that we're nearing the end that you don't have to master all of this overnight. And in fact, you can't. So great. Don't try. Orgasmic mastery is really about developing a relationship with this energy, becoming curious about how the pleasure moves through your body, how your energy responds, what happens when you stay present instead of rushing to release. It's really experimentation, right? And when we reclaim our sexual energy, life opens up. We experience more vitality, more creativity, deeper intuition, stronger boundaries, greater connection to desire. We come alive. And that's why what I do isn't about sex, it's about living fully alive, right? And sexual mastery is about reclaiming this most powerful energy in the human body, learning to nourish yourself with it, circulate it, direct it, and allowing it to support your healing and your creativity and your growth. And when that begins to happen, pleasure stops being something that's just in the bedroom. It becomes something that radiates through your entire life. So, if you've enjoyed this Orgasmic Mastery series, I would love to hear from you. Leave a review, share the episode with someone who might benefit from it, and stay tuned because we are going to keep exploring what it means to live a fully embodied, fully expressed, fully alive life. And remember, you deserve a life that makes others say, oh, damn, I'll have what they're having.